When you get into running, one of the hardest adjustments is embedding runs into your routine. And while I'm running a 5K race every week for an entire year, a week of NBA finals and 9 to 5s meant the challenge had to be saved by a run club. First, an intro of 8-6 Go, because they've shown up a lot this challenge. The concept is simple. You live around Hartford, you like to run, congrats, you're in the club.
Approved!
They're the best kind of run club. It doesn't matter what your pace is or what goals you have. Every Tuesday night starting March 26th, you can come to a group run, take the time you need, and enjoy food and drink with the squad at Red Rock Tavern after. But in week 34, there seemed to be no races anywhere that fit my schedule, just the club's holiday party. So I dropped a message in the group Halo asking for help, and Justin here simply said, I'll race you along the river. These are the moments that make running as incredible as it is, because you're able to build a support network of friends old and new, and after 29-19 through Hartford's Connecticut River Line, the challenge is safe for now. Little more organized racing next week though. Like and follow for more. Let's run a race that's held every Saturday year-round. I'm running a 5K race every week for an entire year, but it turns out I'm not the first person to try this. Because every single Saturday you can find the Central Mass Striders running a course they drew up around Worcester State University. Of course, it'd be easy for me to drive to Worcester every week from now until April when the challenge is over, but one of the cardinal rules has been for every race to be in a different place. Because let's be honest, with how close Worcester is or other places this year that I've never been before, the grass touching deficiency is definitely showing itself. It's your classic run around the college neighborhood. Well, it's really quite nice if I had bothered to listen to course directions, and what starts as a brisk, mostly downhill race turns into climbing late. A fun mix-up with free gifts in Massachusetts' second largest city. 29-11 at the line, the mileage has been low, but finals are complete. Like and follow for more. I'm running a 5K race every week for an entire year, and it's Christmas Day, but with the morning to myself, I fear I found a race so hard it'll leave you seeing 3 spirits. To explain why, here's a pattern I'm noticing 36 weeks into this challenge. If you're measuring elevation gain at 100 feet or below, it's flat enough to go for a PR. 100 to 200 feet, still fast, but more of a workout. Above 200, however, you're getting the Jack Skellington Christmas Special. The Scrooge Scramble in Rockville, Connecticut is a 5K that represents the holiday spirit. Fundraising for a local ministry centered exclusively around helping people get food, shelter, and clothing. But as a race, rolling hills with 204 feet of gain. A humbling 28:04 at the line, but a reason to be thankful. Now time to spend the rest of Christmas relaxing and being a Polar Express apologist. When you run a 5K, do you trust the race time or your watch? Because while I'm running a 5K race every week for an entire year, we built the chip on our shoulders for the last 16 weeks of this challenge in Westfield, Massachusetts. The Gordy's first race was fantastic. People, the environment, the bell curve elevation, but it had one fatal flaw so bad the organizers had to apologize after the race. For the second time this challenge, the course was drawn up about a quarter mile too long. So what was measured as a 15-second PR for me instead was marked way slower. The beauty of running local races like this is often nothing to do with the set times. And in this case, the accomplishment itself is way more exciting. Running almost 3.5 miles at an 8:40 pace is still faster than anything I've ever done before. And the knowledge that I can do it is going to be key when I start that last race in Boston. 28:47 gets written down. My rule the race time is what counts for this challenge. But which one do you prefer using? Discuss in the comments.
I've been up since 3 a.m. 7 more miles to go to this. This may be the dumbest thing I've done this whole challenge.
I'm running a 5K race every week for an entire year. And dare I say it, happy week 38. But getting to run with Herm runs took a lot. For the first time this challenge, we're hit with a logistical nightmare for road races. Weekend snow, meaning my only opening was to travel 3 hours to Cambridge early Saturday morning and take part in Britain's best export, the park run.
I'm being shady.
Where all it takes is a few volunteers and some timing gear, and you've got a weekly 5K in your favorite park every week for free. To me, this is the perfect place if you're new to running. Doesn't matter your pace or your skill level, you can get a 5K in and meet with other local runners around coffee afterwards. And it was an honor to run with Herm as a fellow big dude in the community.
Shout out to all the pair.
As for the race itself, 31:12 at the line, because sleep is important. Never doing an early morning ride to Boston again. 14 weeks to go. I'm running a 5K race every week for an entire year. And in week 39, we got a pretty good wake-up call. The setting is Forest Park in Springfield, Massachusetts, where the Harriers have weekly races throughout the winter months. And on that annual time in January that's so mild and gross you start looking up EV prices, I found myself late to the race and having to run across the 2-mile park in order to get even to the starting line. For the last 2 weeks, I've realized that picking a race on Friday, waking up stupid early to get there, and catching up on sleep later was starting to wear on my motivation and performance. And if I'm going to finish the last 12 weeks, especially with winter races being sparse, I can't get away with starting late, loosely trying to get the course down, and having to do the finishing time math myself. 29:31 this week, I guess. At least I got to see my race day shoes' new baby sister. What are your thoughts on the Saucony Ride 17s? Comment them below. This is the most brutal 5K course, but you need to try it. I'm running a 5K race every week for an entire year, entering week 40 in the beauty of the snow, but the aesthetics were a trap into a scenic torture chamber. After a recent rut, there's no better group to run with than 8-6 Go, and while Tuesday group runs are back as of this week, winter weekends you can find an informal group post up at the West Hartford Reservoir. As always, an incredible group of people to run with, but the Reservoir at race pace, stop me if you heard this one before. before. 100 feet of elevation gain in the first mile without a break. Then on the downhills, you loop back around, little 10, 20 feet hills the rest of the way that would give Sisyphus PTSD. In short, this course is awesome, especially with the friends made celebrating the feat over a classic like AC Peterson's. 28.55 at the line, but I'm sensing these hills will pay some dividends. The running community has a new capital in America, Baltimore.
Ravens!
So while I'm running a 5K race every week for an entire year, I'm taking the longest trip of the challenge for one of the biggest running events of the season, Winter Grit, hosted by Believe in the Run. The show reviewer is responsible for turning Baltimore into a pilgrimage for any runner susceptible to YouTube wormholes. Like me, ASICS was in town for testing, and it seems the Nimbus 26s are doable for stable kings looking for a max cushion, and the Ministry of Brewing's hosting duties make you feel right at home. Not before a 5K through Fells Point in the harbor though, which really made this city feel like you were racing in Monaco at points, except for the occasional stop for traffic.
Just an incident.
27:24 movement time, 29:39 elapsed time. You use your own metrics on this one. I'm just happy to be here to enjoy the crab dip.
Yay!
Have you heard that the new trend in the dating world is running? Organizers of 5K races are starting to take notice. And while I'm running a 5K every week for an entire year, I had to go to one for the bit in Flushing Meadows, New York. Now hit the music.
Elite Feats have presented a doozy for the Islanders this week. Because to win the challenge, they'll have to run around the park between Citi Field and the US Open. The catch? They'll have to do it in 15-degree weather.
Okay, that's enough of the bad accent. The year is full of races in parks around New York thanks to Elite Feats, so may find myself leaning on them a bit if there's not a lot of options in Connecticut. For now, it's enjoying a flat Mario circuit around Flushing and a trip to Peking Duck with other runners to celebrate after. 28:02 at the line. Nice place to run in the city, and a sign that suggests we're in good form. Finding running events in the dead of winter can really be hard to come by, and while I'm running a 5K race every week for an entire year, that means traveling out of state for the third week in a row. Second of which in New York City.
With the bed? With the bed? Yeah.
We're back in Randall's Island, but unlike week 13 inside of its stadium, this Cupid's Chase 5K in week 43 was along the coast of the island, so still within the rules. It's another Elite Feats event centered around Valentine's Day, so another wonderful finisher's medal to add to the family, and this one's showing a promising future. The hills were small, but in very inconvenient places, like right at the finish, yet still a good set of splits to get a PR, at least in officially timed races. 27:35, so we're in good shape for the time being. What's your favorite spot to run in the winter? Learning to run consistently is all about embracing when times are tough, and while I'm running a 5K race every week for an entire year, this challenge is feeling more like an endurance race than the distance suggests, because week 44 threw everything at me. A second cold in 1 year, which never happens. Snow that's just enough to break out the old Goofy Goggins memes. A 60-mile drive, because that was the closest race and I was done traveling to the city. I would have loved to explore Athol, Massachusetts, Athol, however you pronounce it. It looks like a quaint little town with a nice race to raise money for pet rescues. But this week, I just needed to get the race done and over with, because the lesson is this. Fear of a bad day now creates more bad days than you're comfortable with in the future, because the lessons you were meant to learn from it won't be there if you aren't there to make the mistake. So, here we are in the snow.
I'm shivering!
30:48 at the line. The challenge rolls on, but the next 8 weeks can't come soon enough. For the last 44 weeks, I've had the goal of running a 5K race every week for an entire year. But it's fitting that we've reached week 45 during Mental Health Awareness Month, because at this point, burnout teamed up with the negative thoughts that plague me in moments like this. Overwhelmed feelings team up with insecurities about myself and the past mistakes that give credence to a fear of failure, existential dread from, everything.
And here we go.
I don't know if I'll end up making any more PRs in this challenge, but however it ends, the accomplishment I'll most be proud of is that I started therapy this year. And no, this isn't an ad for that one place, we all know. It's just the truth. I had friends who saw the rut that I've been in and did an intervention of sorts for me to finally do it. I'm not the most conversational or vulnerable person out there, so all I'll say is this. Like your running journey, unpacking the way your mind works takes time. So while we figure it out, I'm using a mulligan race of sorts along the river in Suffield, because this is what running has always been. A race against yourself. 27:34 according to Strava, we'll take it. And if you feel like you're struggling, you're far from alone. For 46 weeks, I've been on a quest to run a 5K race every week for an entire year. And it feels weird, but this is only the second park run I've done in this challenge. Because in this penultimate trip to Boston, I think I figured out what makes this British contribution to the running world so special.
Not fun, I've got school.
Jamaica Pond is one of 3 Boston park runs, which are the closest to me by a lot. But I was amazed at the amount of people visiting from all over the park run world. Liverpool, Japan, this awesome Welsh family that just saw there were park runs here and put on their vacation itinerary. I think the success of park run is twofold. First, the local convenience of having a race in your backyard every week. I mean, look at the pond views here. And second, the worldwide network of races that make the Zillennial in me think it's a real-life Pokedex. Let's freaking go. Especially when the map of the Isles looks like this.
I'm going on an adventure!
27:52 at the line. Consistency under 28 is the goal. Only 6 races to go. For 47 weeks, I've been on a quest to run a 5K race every week for an entire year. And 2 years ago, the first race in my quest from the couch to the New York City Marathon was here in Putnam. One of 4 St. Patrick's themed races the Hartford Marathon puts together, because there's 2 types of people in Connecticut. The ones with Irish descendancy and the ones who wish they had Irish descendancy. He said with his chest like it isn't a quarter of the bloodline from 4 generations ago.
We're in the home of the enemy, Kathleen!
The last time I was here, I ran a 32:37. While I was hoping for a faster pace, the week leading up I had learned a very very hard lesson. The IT band, turns out, isn't just a mysterious knockoff from Richard Iowati. It's an actual muscular system that'll give you crippling back pain if you don't take care of it. So this promenade along the Quinnebog River was made possible by capsaicin patches and a prayer that I can survive the last 5 weeks. You want to know how I did it? Don't make me tap the sign. 27:51 at the line, oddly similar to last week, but I'll take it. For 48 weeks, I've been on a quest to run a 5K race every week for an entire year. And for the 5th and final time, we're in the Big Apple. This for the New York City Half Marathon, where St. Patty's Day traditions and your local quarter-life crisis recipient in $200 shoes intersect for a legendary weekend. When this fabled race began, I found myself in another appearance by Elite Feats, with an out-and-back 5K along the Brooklyn coastline. But the day felt more like an ode to what the running world is. I cheered at the finish for folks I'd only known through Instagram and online running groups, like Julia from week 29, who crushed it in the half. I tried Michelin-star food for the first time, all because one of my first followers just happened to be a runner who owned a spot in New York. More on that experience soon, though. Shout out to Raymond at 63 Clinton. If the algorithm hasn't sent you enough Ron Talk videos saying this, let me throw my support. What makes the running community so special is the people so willing to lift each other up, even if they're just strangers. And I'm feeling like I just scratched the surface. 27:49 at the line. 4 weeks till we close this out on Boylston. For 49 weeks, I've been on a quest to run a 5K race every week for an entire year. And somehow, it's been over 4 months since I've hit a PR, after a winter full of memories and downright chaos. So in this final cold weather race, we've called on Jeff, who you may remember from week 28, pacing my first under 29-minute race, hoping to make some magic on the shores of Madison, Connecticut at a race that some kid put together in honor of his dog. Love the local stuff. But it's time to make some running terminology out of a common thread when running these races, because while kids have their phantom tax, runners have a thing called Strava tax, where GPSs fight with race organizers to make race times and distances vary. So instead of seconds from the 27-minute mark and a PR according to Strava, probably due to excellent pacing, we instead have to settle for a 28:53. Guess we got 3 weeks to go to make one more. For 50 weeks, I've been on a quest to run a 5K race every week for an entire year, and we're just 2 weeks away from finishing it all on the streets of the Boston Marathon. But while more races are popping up each weekend with the spring arriving, the ones that do pop up are far from easy. Take, for example, the Bradley Road Race. You think to yourself, oh, a suburban run with the school as a start-finish. What could go wrong? A good old Boston concave, that's what. All the downhill in the first 2 miles and then climbing a good 60 feet at the 4K mark when you've just about had it. This will be important to deal with, though. The Boston 5K course on week 52 is nice and flat so we can go for a PR. So dealing with some obnoxiously inconvenient hills can pay some dividends later, hopefully.
So you're telling me there's a chance?
29:44 at the line. No negative split, but it was good to have one more ride with the 8-6 Go folks. For 51 weeks, I've been on a quest to run a 5K race every week for an entire year, and it feels so weird to say that we're finally at the penultimate race in this challenge. In just 1 week, we'll be finishing on a really flat course to see if we can get one more PR. So it's only fitting to prepare for it with the rolling hills of the Middletown 5K, a race that covers the downtown and academic areas of a Connecticut town that frankly is kind of slept on. The course is riddled with 20 and 50-foot hills that are fun to go for at top speed, but the goal here is a negative split. Get a comfortable pace, stay there with the changing elevation, and enjoy sprint to the end in the final half mile. The end of this challenge is in sight. It's been an incredible undertaking full of all kinds of adventures and people met, and with some secret weapons in hand, it's time to go all out and there's only one place to do it. For right now though, 29:17. If you need a 5K or 10K in April, this is highly recommended. For 52 weeks, I've been on a quest to run a different 5K race every week for an entire year. Last year, I went to the Boston Marathon to watch the big race and experience all the shakeout runs, and I could barely run a mile. Now, after a grueling summer and winter, it's only fitting that we finish the challenge back in Boston at the 5K held the weekend of this year's marathon. And it's all the stops to make it a PR. The Energy Goose, Saucony Endorphin Pro 3s at the expense of my unstable legs. Grading Boston with a Tom Brady mating call of excitement. In the end, success depends on who you ask. The race gave me a 27:25, Strava measured 26:37 with the fastest split at 26:02, but who cares? This past year has brought so many challenges, but it's introduced so many people and things that make the running community so fantastic. And in a social media world where it feels like you need a 250 marathon or runs across countries to feel validated, let this be a reminder. PRs, in the end, aren't defined by the clock. They're defined by doing a little something better every time you put the shoes on. And anyone out there who says you're too slow or not running far enough to feel proud of yourself, cut them out your life because they're projecting their own insecurities. So enjoy the moment, enjoy the run, you're doing great out there.